she walked into the office and there was this young man right next to her. And I was like, Allah, who is with her? And she's introducing him. And I was like, who this? Who that? And what is he all about? And I'm thinking to myself, at what point did my little baby girl grow? She was just this little thing the other day running helter-skelter and causing all sorts of ruckus. And now she's dating. And I had a lot of feelings. Some were exciting, some were erring on caution, because as a mom, you don't want to imagine your daughter can get pregnant. And then I'm happy she's growing up, and there's all these roller coaster of emotions going on. And then I remember myself when I was a teen. Well, let's just say it was a little bit of a rough patch even for my mama. Welcome to the Motivate to Elevate podcast. I am your host, Coach Korry, and today we will be talking about stages of parenting. Now, if you have not watched part 1, I will leave the link in the description, so that part 2 can make sense. So let's dive in. Stages of parenting. Obviously, there's the first one. When you get baby, you come home, and that's that 0 to 5 years. There's obviously, it's broken into 0 to 2, the infancy stage, and then you have 3 to 5 where they are toddlers. Okay, so I'm kind of gonna put those a little bit together. For the 0 to 2, really, that's the easiest. I know you don't know this until later, because all they need is food, warmth, just to feel secure, loved, hugged. You're frustrated because they're not talking. Trust me, enjoy this stage. Yes, they cry. Yes, they don't sleep through the night. Yes, you will be exhausted. And yes, moms, your hormones are all over the place. I definitely appreciate that. I'm not making light of that. But in terms of the whole parenting journey, this is just the beginning. And in retrospect, you will realize that as they grow, there has these different challenges that come with the child. As a parent, your job is just essentially to be a safe space, to be responsive, to be patient, and to be present. At that stage, that's all they need. You're building their neurological foundation of trust. And then you get into the toddler stage where they are no. The no stage where you say all this no and there's all these meltdowns, and the child is a bit confused now because you were this really nice, loving parent, and now you're saying no, they're not having their way with you. And in that space, as parents, what is being expected of us? This is the stage we're starting to kind of mold them a little bit. Okay, we're not there yet, but we are putting in that foundation of beginning to help them understand boundaries. And we're doing this with warmth because we're not in that stage where we're doing any kind of heavy disciplining. Think of yourself as this loving guardrail. Okay, you're consistent, you're calm, and you're unshaken by the storm that they create. Because in this stage, if you do not set the right foundation, they will rule you. Oh yes, they will. And those little babies, the toddlers, they will manipulate you. And for those parents of older children, they know. And then of course you have the 3 to 6. In this stage, the toddler stage, the child needs imagination, play, and moral grounding. So they will ask you some questions. Are we there? This is that age of, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And you have to exercise a lot of patience. So it's really key for us to begin to prepare ourselves psychologically for each stage, because when we are prepared, we handle it better. Okay, because all these kids are trying to do is figure out, how the world is working, and they pretend to play. This is where they have all these Barbie dolls and their storytelling. They have, and what the unfortunate thing is for many parents, this is where gadgets are parenting our children. And I want to ask you, how is that going to go later on when you don't want them to be on their gadgets, but in this very formative stage, that's what you're giving them? Do you see the problem? You cannot be parenting with gadgets and then expect expect the child to get away from the gadgets later. This is a very good opportunity for you to help build gadget time and non-gadget time. And gadgets should not be used as a tool for parenting. They can be used as a dose of entertainment, but not the dose for entertainment. They can be used for games and to build their minds. But again, like I said, even in my last episode, parents, balance. Some of us are drowning in the parenting journey because we have also not prepared ourselves well, or sometimes it's circumstances, but that's no excuse. You really have a child. Your job is not more important than your child. If something were to happen to that child, what would you do? Would that job have to wait? So I'm here challenging us as parents. Let us not have gadgets parenting our children. And for those of us who have house or domestic workers, those are not your co-parents. They are supposed to help you with work around the house. It is not their job to go through your child's homework and make sure it's okay and to sign the diary. That is not their responsibility. What are you communicating to that child? You're telling that child that they don't matter enough. Every action you make as a parent has a message to your child. So be very careful, especially when they're this young. They are going to, and this generation, they're going to call you out. They will call you out. And so in that, let me say 0 to, almost 6, what is our main focus as parents? It is creating a secure attachment, healthy bonding, okay? Teaching some basic boundaries and building trust and consistency. This is not the place where you threaten and you don't do. This is not the place you allow them to do one thing today and another thing tomorrow. You create patterns, healthy patterns. If it's sleeping time, if it's TV time, whatever it is, this is the place where you're molding and creating those healthy patterns for your children. Then of course we have the next stage between grade school and middle school, where your role as a parent is more of teaching and character development. So as parents, this is where you're teaching values, responsibility, there are consequences to those actions, work ethic, you're giving them chores and you're showing them how to do it. Now, please, we are not looking for perfection here. We are looking to mold character. I remember when my children were in this stage and I was teaching them how to make their beds. And at that point, we had moved back to Kenya and we had a domestic help. And my little girl was trying, to make her bed, and the domestic help was insisting on making her bed. And I said, no. And of course, she wanted to do it perfectly. She was coming from a good place, but my little girl was so excited to be able to make her bed. She felt like a big girl. This is where, children want to be treated like, I'm a big girl, I'm a big boy. And they want a little bit of responsibility. Now, depending on how you do it, they will appreciate it and they will, align. Or if you're that screaming parent, like, you haven't done this, you're nagging, guess what? You are not going to get the results you're looking for. That's why I said in my previous episode, you must understand yourself. Nagging, screaming, and making all these sort of comments that we make in the house. I'm the only one who gets anything done in this house. Why do I have to shout and scream at you? I'm tired of telling you that. That will not get you anywhere, especially in this generation. And especially if you are intending to have a healthy relationship with this child in their teenage years. I know for many of us, our parents shouted and screamed at us. But isn't it exhausting even to do it? Are there no other tools? Now, there's a lot of tools in the parenting journey, but we also have to take time to learn them. As parents, what is our role, especially when between our 6 to 12-year-olds? Because remember, we're teaching and we're building the character of our children. We're teaching values, responsibilities, consequences, work ethic, and emotional intelligence. You have to teach your children when to talk, when not to talk, how to speak to adults, okay? How not to speak to adults, what to receive, what not to receive. There's a lot going on. This is a very good place to also affirm them, teach them, who they are in Christ. Teach them to the scriptures, to repeat after themselves. Affirmation. This is a good place to do it because they'll stick in this space. So remember, you're leading strongly, but you're explaining more. So if your kid is curious, yes, that's the right thing. And so if they're shutting down, is it possible you've shut them down? You have to be careful with how you're communicating with your children. Just because in your season, in your time, you are told children are there to be seen and not to be heard, does not mean the same remains true today. We are a different generation. We're raising children who can self-advocate. How do you expect your child to self-advocate if at this stage you are not building those muscles? This is where you have conversations with them. You challenge them. You want them to think. You want them to respond with respect as adults and not to accept everything that is fed to them. Why? Because we also live in a time where there is information overload. This is where you have to teach them to discern truth and what is fake, what is lies. Not based on your traumas, not based on your own belief systems that could be faulty, but based on you also having done your own inner work. You have healed. You are not carrying trauma anymore. And so now you have built the capacity to be a healthy parent. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not doing that, how do you expect this child to excel later? We have a situation right now in Kenya where children are burning each other as they're burning their schools. Here in the US, we have shootings. We have the suicide rate in our children is so high. Are we stopping to ask ourselves these questions? Or are we so busy making money and delegating the parenting responsibility? When was the last time you blessed your children? When was the last time you really understood what was going on in the heart of your children? When was the last time you asked them, how are you really doing? Without an agenda, without judging them. Can your children, especially these ones, and even the ones in the teens, we're coming to the teens, can they mess up and come and tell you without being afraid of being judged? I remember my daughter, the younger one. She used to come home with stories. She's an amazing storyteller. She appears very quiet, but she is a storyteller. We used to wait for her in the dining room because we used to eat in the dining, all of us, and we would look at her. She tell us today what happened. And she would tell us the things that children don't tell parents. She would tell us how they were naughty, how they were caught, how they were beaten, and we would laugh. And how they had to say, oh, teacher is coming, teacher is coming. How they were written as noisemakers. How this kid did this. We had the dirt on all our friends' children. Because we had created that atmosphere at home. Can your children do that? Or are you going to come start telling them how they should never have done that? I kid you not. This is now what happened to this same child later when she was in high school. Some of her friends got in trouble and were suspended. And I didn't even know. One of the parents reached out to me and told me what had happened. And my daughter said not a word. And I asked her later, how come, number one, you are not caught in that mess? Because all the children who were caught in the mess were her friends. And she was not in that mess. And this is what she said to me. Mommy, I knew better. After what you and Dad have done for me and how you have sacrificed for me to be in this school, I knew better. And then she also said, I also knew you'd kill me if I did this. And I don't mean kill like in the literal sense, but she knew she would not be able to get away with it. Okay, but my point to us as parents is we must create values. And I remember an older man telling us when I was a young parent, and we were having a parenting seminar, and we were asking, what is parenting really? And he said something that stuck with me. He said, parenting is instilling values in your children that when you are not there, they can still make the right decision. And I was like, wow, that's a tall order. And so I'm asking you, parent, as you're doing your parenting, are you instilling values where your children can make the right decision even in your absence? What should we be focusing on then in this age group, especially between 6 and 12? Conversations, responsibility, problem solving, and identity formation, because these are now getting into preteens where identity becomes a big deal. So we need to have good, healthy conversations. It is very hard to do that when you're not a wholesome, healthy person, if you're carrying stress, if you are toxic yourself. Okay, and so there is a danger of overcorrecting, and this is now where personality traits come in, because there is a certain personality trait that I know. I use the DISC model of behavior when I'm teaching, and in the S's and the C's, especially the C's, they can overcorrect because being correct is so important to them. You know, I remember one of my students telling me that she learned while we were in class that she was always overcorrecting her children in the way the child was writing, and she didn't realize it until I brought it to her attention through the assessment that we did. And so it is very important. If you're a dominant parent, those are the parents who are gung-ho, who have no filter. Oh my goodness, please, parents, do your inner work. Oh, I don't know what I can tell you. Please do your inner work. This is critical, because dominant parents can be bullies to their children and don't even know it. They think they're parenting well, but they're bullying. Inspirational parents are all over the place. Okay, they are all over. They're fun, but they don't know how to create healthy boundaries. Parents who are steady, in the S category of the DISC model of behavior, they tend to be very. They demand loyalty. They're mother hen. They hold. And you can have a little bit of everything, because in the DISC model of behavior, we all have a little bit of everything, but there's some traits that are stronger than others, and when you are out of balance, you go to the extreme. And so you can be overprotective, you can be over controlling and overcorrecting. I have seen parents who, even with their adult children, they want to know too much about them, and they get offended when your child is not giving you a blow-by-blow account of where they are. You're all up in their business. And so I want to ask you a question. Are you teaching them life skills, or are you demanding compliance? Think about it. Now let's get into the teenagers. This is where they're calling you brah, yeah? And they're using all these words, and you're like, who that? Who are they talking to? They're not calling you mommy and daddy anymore. They're calling you by the latest slang. By the way, we did it even in our time. Buddha boss, Mathe, Mtunguyas, Fathe. We called them. Only thing is, we're not bold enough to call many of them those names to their faces. Our children are calling us those names to our faces. Are they trying to be disrespectful? No. But it's also important for you to teach them how to have the right boundaries. Healthy boundaries. And I'm going to do another video on boundaries, because if there is one thing most people don't know how to do, is how to create healthy boundaries. You cannot teach what you don't know. Okay, I digress. Back to adolescence. Now, teenage years are in two parts. There's the adolescence early adolescence and the late adolescence. So the early adolescence is between 13 and 15. This is where now they're trying to figure out who they are, and their bodies are beginning to change. If it's the boys, their voices are beginning to break. They're beginning to get, hair, facial hair, and also in the other parts, they're beginning to feel a little bit embarrassed. They're having a lot of hormonal changes. And the same with the girls. Nowadays, girls start their periods even earlier, and so there's that happening. Their bodies are forming, and so they are beginning to ask themselves, who am I really? And in a world where there is so much information, if you are struggling with parenting, guess what? The world is going to decide the identity of your child. Who are you going to be to that child? Because the primary goal for that child is they start thinking they're adults. Because remember, you're also giving them responsibilities. They don't know they're not adults yet. They don't understand that their brains are not formed completely yet. But they're beginning to feel invincible. This whole hormonal thing happening is giving them a high. So they're beginning to feel very strong. They're very strong at that age. They're beginning to have all this, inner feelings, the sexual feelings. And so they are going through a lot of things in their mind. And now they're beginning to pull away from many parents because they are not sure they're comfortable with you now. With all these changes that are going on, they are learning things. Some of them are going online and learning sexual stuff. And they feel like you can see, and so they're beginning to withdraw from you. They spend time on the phone with their friends because they feel like their friends can understand them better. And by now, depending on the relationship you have with your children, it's going to determine how you navigate this space. Your role at this time is to be like a parent consultant. You're available, you're not judging, you're letting them come to you. You're providing wisdom, not lectures. You're talking to them with the future in mind. You're not telling them the way we were told. Now that you've started your period, don't bring me children. Like, Jesus, as a little girl, you're barely understanding yourself, but now your parents are telling you, especially mothers, and the fathers. Now they close the gate. That child cannot do X, Y, Z. How are you helping that child? Are you going to be there for that child till they're 25? And then when they're older and they're not getting married, you have a problem. Can you decide? Okay. So as parents, it is very important when your children are going through adolescence to be connected to them. And when I say connected, be connected to their heart. Understand what their struggles are. Be a safe space. Don't panic when they pull away. Create environments and spaces for you to talk, for you to chit-chat, for you to do something they enjoy doing. Share your own teenage experience. Let them know they are not alone. And as they enter late adolescence, because they're also making a lot of decisions for their life, they are confused. They don't have the right wisdom to know whether I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, an engineer, whatever. Let's not put undue pressure on them. And especially, now the educational system puts so much pressure on our children. The last thing they need is additional pressure from parents. Society, culture, social media is already putting on a lot of pressure. This is the time you need to know yourself well enough so that you can help your child understand themselves too. Enroll them in personal development classes. It's important. Let them understand their personality traits. And you take time to also do those assessments for yourself and for them. That is one of the benefits I really have enjoyed being a coach. I have come to understand my whole household. I know my husband. Now the things we used to fight about, we don't even fight about anymore. Then I have my children. Many of us are parentifying our children, which is now you're creating a future problem. I digress. That's a whole other video by itself. Anyway, So you need to understand what are their personality traits. I have a child who does not like to be told things without notice. And now I understood that. So if there's something that's happening, we tell her on such and such a day, there's something that we need to do this, we need to do that. I know how they are wired now. I know how these girls are thinking. Now they are adults. And that has really helped me even navigate my relationship with them as adults. At this stage, they're rehearsing how to be adults when they're in their late adolescence. They're taking risks. They are making mistakes. They are going to go to university. You will not be there to make every decision for them. So it is critical that you understand your goal, you understand your position, your role as a parent. You're soft launching them into adulthood, okay? So that you're not just dropping them, because they're going to go to college and they are going to meet people from all sorts of value systems. Are they going to be able to make the right decision? What does this look like as a parent? You're in a coaching kind of a scenario. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask more questions, relevant questions, not questions to intimidate them, but questions to help them. You're going to listen more, and you're also going to explain boundaries and teach them boundaries. Now, there is a danger, again, back to the personality traits. There is a danger for authoritarian parenting, constant criticism and micromanaging. I see this all the time. So you need to be so self-aware. And if you are not self-aware, sometimes you want to say something. Stop, catch yourself. Stop saying, I've spent so much money for you to do this and you didn't. How about you look at that situation and ask, why did you not attend practice? What's going on? Sometimes there's a deeper reason. It's not always about them attending the practice. What if they're being bullied? What if they're not in a good headspace? Let's learn how to listen to our children. I'm not saying that everything they say is right. No. But at this stage, when they're in their adolescent period especially, it is such a formative stage. And that's why I said every stage has its own challenges. Yeah. And it's very important that we take time to listen to them. And so ask yourself, am I increasing control while they're asking for independence? Because what they're needing is roots and wings at the same time. What are you doing? Finally, the stage of 18 to 25. Now, this is a young adult and you've really transitioned, and now there should be mutual respect. It's not you telling them. There should be some level of mutual respect, and it should be a space where now your children are looking to you as a trusted elder. That now, even in the other life decisions they are making, they can come to you for wisdom on investments. Some of them have already probably entered corporate or business. They can come to you for your wisdom because you have lived life. By the time your children are entering this age, you have lived life and you have something to share. You have something to teach. And you have also a few things you have learned in some of the mistakes you made even in your own journey. And so your relationship with your children at this time is reworking itself from being more vertical, meaning like parent of a child, to a more horizontal relationship. And so in this stage, a lot of parents go through grieving because this is the empty nester stage. This is where you wonder, Allah, what happened? I'm alone, because you had buried yourself in the parenting experience. You had sacrificed everything at the expense of yourself. So parents, it's very important for us to have balance. And when we have also unhealthy bonding relationships, this is where we really mourn our children. They leave us, and in a world like we are today, our children could leave and go to another country, to the other part of the world. Let us not feel like they are abandoning us. Now, I know it's easier said than done, and that's why I'm doing this video, so that you can begin to prepare yourself, because remember, you're preparing destinies. These children are not for you. They are God's children, and they are God's workmanship. They have their own assignment in this world. Yours was to prepare them for that assignment. And so I ask you, in this space, are you going to be a mentor? Because what they are needing is guidance, they need encouragement, they need support, and they are going to make mistakes. Allow them to make those mistakes. Don't keep bailing your children out, because again, there is a danger of overparenting. You want to control them financially. You have emotional manipulation. This is where we see a lot of emotional manipulation, and we have refused to release them. Why? Because we have not dealt with our own inner wounds. One important truth for you to understand is control may keep them close physically while pushing them away emotionally. And so please be very, very, very careful on how you do that. So can you respect your children as adults? Food for thought. I'm going to wrap up this video here. If this has been beneficial, kindly consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video. And also, I would love to hear your comments in the comment section. How has your parenting journey been? Are you relating with what I'm saying? Have you understood the different seasons of parenting? And now, are you aware that you have to understand the child, the different personalities, and even yourself, and the seasons and the stages? Well, that's it for today. Until next time, bye-bye.